ever found the perfect domain only to realize it's already taken? And then you see services like Afternic, GoDaddy, DomainAgents offering to help you. But are they really worth it? I went through months of negotiations to get Hout.com, the four-letter domain that's been my dream to get to build all my business around. And let me tell you, the biggest mistake people are making is thinking domain brokers are always the only way to get what they want. Let's break down the pros, cons, and a major drawback that could cost you thousands or even stop you from getting the domain altogether. Stick around, because at the end I'll show you how I can personally help you track down the domain owner using my cybersecurity skills. So domain brokers like Afternic and DomainAgents, what do they actually do? These brokers act like middlemen to help you acquire a domain that already exists, that's already owned by someone else. They reach out to the domain owner, they negotiate on your behalf, and they try to reach an agreement. Usually you need them because nowadays most of domain owners, they don't publicly show their contact information, their name, their email, etc. So when you use a service called Whois to put a domain and see what's the information that the domain owner has, so that you can reach out to them and start the negotiation phase, you find that it's protected by privacy controls. So you cannot access this information. And that's why you need the domain brokers for that kind of cases. Sounds great, right? Well, here's what they don't tell you. And I hope this video gives value. And if it really does, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. It really helps reach more people and it helps me create more value-driven videos. So the major drawback when you're dealing with domain brokers is that you don't actually get to speak directly with the domain owner in most cases. They are the middlemen. Imagine if you're trying to buy a house, but instead of talking to the seller, you have to speak with that middleman that goes back and forth with offers you can't really control. Now that I think about it, that's a realtor. That's what happens with most of these brokers. So what does that mean? You don't know if the domain broker is relaying the exact offer that you're making. Now, of course, since these companies have been around for a while, I hope they are held to certain ethics, to a certain ethical standard, but at the end of the day, you really don't know. And you don't know if the domain owner would have taken less. You have no idea. You have no input to that negotiation. And last but not least, you don't know if the domain owner is actually interested in selling the domain, if they are motivated to sell it, or they're just browsing and gauging interest. Now, my personal experience with Hout.com, I didn't go with the domain broker. I used my cybersecurity skills in order to reach the domain owner, find his identity, and try to reach him via different media. At the end, LinkedIn was the one that worked. I tried to reach out to him, I think, using Twitter. I don't think I found the email, but yeah, ended up using LinkedIn and it worked, and I was able to reach out to the owner. Now, if I had used a broker, I would have probably paid much more. And honestly, I don't really think that the negotiation would have worked out, because the personal aspect, I believe, is the thing that worked the most in getting the domain name. Now, I reached out to the owner, Robert, after we completed the deal, and I did ask him, why did you change your mind? Can you tell me what was prohibiting you or stopping you from selling the domain? And what actually changed your mind? Why did you decide to sell it to me at the end? And this was after 10 months of negotiation. And Robert has been amazing. He's been highly ethical, and he's just like an amazing human being to deal with. And I hope that I can continue to work with him in the future. So this is a contact that I hope that I would have for long term. Maybe I can help him one day. Maybe he can help me. It doesn't matter. But it's a nice connection to have. And Robert did answer, and here's his answer. So when he was talking about it, I think, based on what you're seeing here right now in this screenshot, it was mostly the personal touch. I was being honest, I was being driven, I laid my cards on the table. I told him, here's what I can do and here's what I can do. So we exchanged offers left or right, and we were trying to reach a deal that would be good for both parties. And at the end, it worked out. So I don't really believe for that kind of case, for a 4-letter domain that's been owned by somebody since 1997, I don't think a domain broker would have been helpful in having this personal touch to get the negotiations running and finalizing the deal. Now, let's take a step back and look at the pros and cons of using a domain broker. First of all, they do the work for you. If you don't like dealing with negotiations, if you find that too stressful and you don't want to deal with that point blank, then they might be a good option for you. 2, they know how to find domain owners. Some owners, as I mentioned before, they're really hard to find, and domain brokers, they have access to a lot of information that we don't really, the public, have access to. So they have methods that they can reach out to the owners and get them get the conversation started, let's say. 3, they can make the process smoother. Now, if we're talking about a domain, a high value domain that's worth maybe 10, 20, 30K, then it might be a good idea to work with a domain broker because they are experienced and they might help you close the deal faster. Now, the cons. First, you really cannot control the conversation. It's the domain broker that controls it, and you have no way of knowing what's actually happening. And I do have another example, and I'll tell you about it in a minute if you decide to stick around. Second, domain brokers, they have to feed themselves, right? So they charge a fee or they take a percentage. So the total price is usually higher. 3, limited flexibility. If the domain owner, especially if it's a high value domain, if they are emotional about the domain, direct conversation might have convinced them to sell it. But if they're just getting this random message from a domain broker that feels kind of robotic, automated, whatever, and they receive that all the time, then they might be inclined to just reject and move on. So when should you use a domain broker? If you are buying a domain that's worth over $10,000 and you need expert advice. 2, you can't find the owner yourself. And 3, you want somebody to handle the process for you because you really don't want to deal with negotiations yourself. Avoid a domain broker if you can find the owner yourself. 2, you are on a budget and you're looking for the best price possible to acquire the domain. 3, if you're buying a domain that you believe it might have some emotional attachment, or the owner might have an emotional attachment to that domain, so it's better if you contact the owner directly instead of going through a domain broker or negotiator. Now, how do you negotiate the domain or buying the domain yourself? 1, you have to find the owner. As I mentioned before, you have a tool that's called Whois. It's a tool that's widely known in networking so that you can find the actual owner of a domain, their contact information, etc. But the challenge with that is most of the times nowadays, the domain owners, to avoid spam and to avoid everybody contacting them about their domain, they have a privacy control. Think of it as a shield that protects their information. So it shows some generic information of the domain registrar or something, and this way their personal information stays personal. 2, make the first move in a smart way. Don't go overboard. Don't say like, I really want this domain. Don't show that you are like super driven to get it, because it might send the idea that you are desperate. Instead, ask them if they are open to selling the domain and go to their interest. My experience with Hout.com, actually lhout.com, which I bought just a few months ago, it was something that I actually reached out to GoDaddy's broker service, and that took around, so I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below, I believe Afternic is a part of GoDaddy, because I was getting emails from different domains at that point. So I reached out to see if I can buy the domain. I tried to get the brokerage service. So they reached out to me, they answered me back, quoted me a very high price, which I said, well, that's really above my budget. I can't really afford that, so I can offer you this exact price, which is way lower than what they are asking for. So that took a lot of back and forth with Afternic, and they kept trying to reach to me saying, oh, we can lower it by 10%, by 20%. I'm like, no, that's still way too high. So the key, I never acted desperate. I took my time and I let them chase me instead of me chasing them. I was ready to walk away from that deal. So that worked in my favor. At the end, instead of coming to me with a great deal, what they did is that they relisted the domain for sale at a very low price, considering it's a 6-character domain. It's something that might be interesting to quite a few people. I hope that my family is that big around the world. So, but they didn't tell me. They're like, okay, you know what? We're not gonna give this deal to that guy. But I saw the ad, or I saw that they're selling it for that price, and I snatched the domain. So that's how it worked out for me. Step 3, you gotta set your budget and give a number that's much lower than what you are willing to pay for. In most cases in negotiations, you don't make the first suggestion or the first offer. But if you have to, you give a really low one to anchor it and go from there. And again, be ready to walk away. If that domain is the dream of your life, and you know this is your one opportunity to get it, and you don't want to get too emotional about it, then do get a domain broker, because they might be able to help with that, even though you're gonna have less advantage in terms of having the humane or the human touch, I want to say, to the negotiation. And step 4, secure the domain using a service. I personally use Escrow.com. They're not the greatest service ever, but they are the best known service for this kind of deals in terms of buying and selling a domain. I will have a separate video about my experience with Escrow.com, and I will create a whole video about it, because a lot of people, I believe, they should know about possible pitfalls that might hinder negotiations or just prolong the process for no reason. So if you are prepared to deal with Escrow.com and have the requirements, that not everything is going to be clear, that's what I found, but if you learn from what I'm giving you, then that might make the process easier and might increase the chances of the negotiations working at the end in your favor and in the sellers. It's a win-win situation. You're both gonna be okay with the deal. So I hope that you're gonna watch that video once it's public. Now, my exclusive service, and I'm gonna put the information of how much it will cost in the at the bottom of this video in the description, because this might change with time. Since I am a security consultant, I use open security intelligence tools in order to find the owner. Basically, I'm just doing research and on the domain to see its history, where it could lead me to, and find the owner for you. So if you are okay with taking over the negotiations once I start the conversation with the seller, and just get back, move away, and let you guys talk together and decide on the next steps, that's gonna be then a good service for you. That's what I'm offering you. I'll find you the contact information of the seller and let you start the conversation with them. If you are interested in that, drop me a comment or DM me. You have all my socials on my page on YouTube, and we can get started. And the best thing is, if I cannot find the owner of the domain, I'll just refund you the money. At the end of the day, domain brokers can be useful, but if you want the best deal, it's almost always better to lead the negotiations yourself, to speak with the owner and see how you can work out the deal that would work out for both of you, instead of just relying on a domain broker that's gonna say, okay, my offer now is X dollars, and the owner is gonna answer back with saying, no, it's gonna be Y dollars for my side, and that's gonna be a while. I was able to get my Hout.com domain for a very good deal, and the seller was also happy about it. But if I use a service like Afternic, now that I think about it, I don't think I would have been able to get the domain, just because I got to know the owner and I spoke with him. I got to understand his ties to the domain and how much it means to him. And at the same time, I was able to show him what I would do with the domain, and I'm not gonna just buy it and flip it or stuff like this. So I think if I went with Afternic or any other domain broker, it wouldn't have worked out. Have you ever tried to buy a domain yourself? and you couldn't find the owner? If yes, please drop a message below and let us know what's your experience. And did you ever use a domain broker in the past? If yes, also please share your experience and let us know what were the pros and cons in your opinion. Did the negotiations work out at the end, or did it fall through? Why? Why not? Etc. That will be helpful for everybody watching this video. If you found this video useful, please consider liking it and subscribing to the channel for more content on tech, IT consulting, tech gadgets, and smart business strategies. For now, I'll see you in the next video. Take care.